One of the things that really sets fair trade businesses apart is how they are often led by the artisans themselves. Fair trade in many ways can really turn a traditional business model on its head, and leadership truly comes from within. This, time and time again, proves to be an incredibly transformative process in the lives of everyone that the business is impacting. Welcome to Business with Purpose. I'm your host, Molly Stillman of stillbeingmolly.com. And this show is all about bringing you the stories behind the brands, companies, and small businesses that are changing the world. Each week, I interview an entrepreneur, a CEO, nonprofit director, community leader, or just an incredible person who is trying to make a positive impact, not only through their personal life, but also with their career. My goal is to show you that no matter what you do for a living, you can make an impact wherever you are. My guests, yes, that's plural. My guests this week are Christi Whitekettle, Tom McGregor, and Jeannine Umutoniwase, the founders of Azizi Life, a fair trade organization dedicated to partnering with skilled Rwandan artisans in their vision to lift their families from poverty. Working since 2008, they have now cultivated partnerships with more than 500 artisans. Azizi Life serves as a bridge, linking artisans, designers, and global customers to offer high-quality, ethically sourced goods for life and gifting. As a not-for-profit organization, Azizi Life is dedicated to the well-being of their artisan partners and their families. In addition to opening economic opportunity through fair trade, Azizi Life invests in a range of community impact projects. Their Rwandan-led team facilitates adult literacy classes and offers other resources for personal, spiritual, and economic growth. I was so thankful for the gift of technology to be able to connect halfway across the world with Christi, Tom, and Jeannine. They are just an incredible team. Jeannine, especially as the CEO of Azizi Life, is just such an inspiration. And I really loved learning more about their story and just the impact that they are having on communities. But before I get to my conversation with Azizi Life, I have a question. Did you know that I have an ethical brand directory on my blog? That's actually what Chelsea used to start finding products for her boutique almost 4 years ago. Now, Ama's Ama carries over 50 intentionally sourced brands and is the perfect one-stop shop for all of your gift giving and shopping needs. And as a thank you to the Still Being Molly Business with Purpose podcast community, she is offering 20% off with the code SHOPWITHMolly. Head to shopwithmolly.com for all the details. Also, if you are one of my loyal listeners of the show, or even, hey, if you're a new one and you are just loving this show, which I'm so appreciative, have you ever wanted to sport some Business with Purpose podcast swag? Well, guess what? You can now get my exclusive Do Something Good with Purpose on Purpose tee through GoX. The design is incredible. I love it so much. But here's the thing. GoX believes in the power of a purchase. They use something like a simple t-shirt to connect their customers with their apparel makers. GoX customers sustain fair wage jobs that liberate workers from poverty and empower them and their families and communities. They are proud to be a verified member of the Fair Trade Federation, so you can shop your exclusive Business with Purpose podcast, sustainable, eco-friendly t-shirt, and so much more with purpose today at goexapparel.com/Molly Stillman. That's GoX, GOEX apparel.com/Molly Stillman. All right, without further ado, on to my conversation with Christi, Tom, and Jeannine of Azizi Life. I am so excited to welcome Christi, Tom, and Jeannine all the way from Rwanda, the founders, the brains behind Azizi Life. And I'm just so excited to welcome you to the podcast. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us, Molly. We're excited to be here.
So obviously, I have actually been a big fan of Azizi Life for years. I don't remember specifically when I was first introduced to Azizi Life, but I came across you guys probably 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. I do some work in Kenya, and I was doing some research on other
kind of brands, especially Christian owned, Christian run brands in the ethical fair trade space that do work in Eastern Africa. And I came across your work and was just blown away by it. So I'm a really, really big fan. So I'm really looking forward to kind of hearing a little bit more of the story and kind of getting to know you. So I would love if one of you, Jeannine, Christi, Tom, whoever wants to take this, to kind of give us the Azizi 101. So tell us who you are, what you do, and how it got started.
Azizi Life was started actually under the auspices of a different nonprofit called Food for the Hungry. And Food for the Hungry had programs that supported education and health, as well as some small business stuff. Through those relationships, we developed connections with artisan cooperatives. And we saw that although artisans' neighbors were buying products, what they were ready to pay was just a fraction of what the product might be worth in other markets, and often not enough to even cover the raw materials that the artisans used to make the products. And that meant that there were all these people in the rural areas who were eking out a living with farming, but really not getting enough for their families' livelihoods. So not able to take their kids to the doctor every time they were sick, and not, for sure getting shoes for everyone, really concerned about paying national health insurance or paying school fees, which is at the top of every artisan's mind, their kids. And so we saw that there are all these cooperatives that were organized with a leadership structure, had skills to make beautiful things. They had a vision for the future, but there was this gap. And we realized that if we could be a bridge across that gap, that the artisans could get paid a fair wage and connected to people who would love their products, beautify their homes and their families with those things, that the artisans could work towards their own vision for a better future for their families, and use their craft for that, to those ends.
When did you guys kind of transition? Because you said that, it kind of transitioned from being a part of Food for the Hungry. When did it become Azizi Life?
From the beginning, we were advised that it would be wise if Azizi Life was started as an independent enterprise separate from the nonprofit. So actually, even from those very first days, we were aiming to register as an independent business, and just continued from there, growing in independence from our foundation at Food for the Hungry, and developing as our own entity.
Just wanted to add to that,
go ahead, Tom.
At the very beginning of starting Azizi Life, the work in Rwanda, we wanted it to be able to be handed over to the local population. So it was our vision and our belief that we should start something, but we shouldn't try and hold on to it. But we should look to hand it over to the local population so we could move on and start something else. So as in development, you kind of want to put yourself out of work. And so we came from a development background, looking to put ourselves out of work so that the enterprise could continue on its own, irrelevant of our involvement. So right from the start, we needed a structure that we could hand over easily. And handing over an international NGO is much trickier than handing over a social enterprise or a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I guess I should formally introduce each of you. I realized I didn't do that. I was getting ahead of myself. I was too excited. So we have Christi Whitekettle here, Tom McGregor, and Jeannine Umutoniwase. And I would love for you each, and I'm going to start with Jeannine, actually. Jeannine, I would love for you to introduce yourself and what is your role with Azizi Life, and how did you get connected to Tom and Christi? I would love to hear all of it.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity so that we can share about our work in Rwanda and the overseas. So my name is Jeannine Umutoniwase, 33 years old. I'm a mother of two girls, and I live in Rwanda. I joined Azizi Life since the beginning in 2008, and I have been enjoying so much working together with Christi and Tom to create this like empire that will enable rural artisans to make life out of their hands. So by creating beautiful handmade craft, they're able to support their families, communities, and Rwanda as a whole. So it's a privilege for me to be able being a part of this great job.
Yeah, you guys really do have an incredible partnership there. How did you first get connected with Christi and Tom?
Back in 2007, I was working as a housekeeper at Food for the Hungry guest house. I was in charge of like making sure that every guest who is staying there have food, that like all their stuff are cleaned and in like position where they're able to live in Rwanda. So I think so Christi came first in Rwanda, and I was in charge of making sure that she has food, that all her clothes are clean, and if she needs to go to the market, I can go with her, translate for her if she needs to communicate with people out there. And yeah, we start building relationship together. And then later on, Tom came in Rwanda also, and he stayed in the same guest house here in Muhanga. So that's how really I get to know both of them. And I kept working there until they closed the guest house, I think in the beginning of 2008. And then as at the same time, I was also teaching Tom Kinyarwanda. And then, yeah, I remember those days. So, yeah, I was teaching Tom Kinyarwanda, but he was not a good student. Yeah, compared with how he does with other things, he's the best at everything, but not good at Kinyarwanda. Yeah, so when they closed the guest house, I continued with teaching Tom Kinyarwanda and also getting other temporary jobs with him and other of his friends, especially in cleaning their homes and so on. So when they started this social enterprise, I think based on the relationship we built up in the past, they thought about me of how I can come and help them, especially in communicating with the first artisans that they were building relationship. So that's how I really connected with Tom and Christi.
That's fantastic. Jeannine, I also would love for you to kind of speak just from your experience and how being involved with this, and obviously like what Tom was saying earlier, where one of the big goals is, you know, Christi and Tom in a lot of ways, like they're trying to work themselves out of a job, and how this is really a program, a social enterprise that is, you know, obviously like there's support from Christi and Tom. There's this bridge between kind of the quote unquote Western market with the artisans there in Rwanda. But it's really a program that is run by the local community. You guys are really, you know, empowered and charged with being leaders in this. And so I would love for you to just kind of share what that has been like and what that means for not only you, but also the artisans, and how important that piece of this is.
Yeah, it is really a great experience to come from a lower position and give an opportunity to grow and become a leader. And as a person who worked with like the company since it started, I was privileged to see the importance of what it really means for Rwandans and everyone who gets benefit from it. So I would say that this is a great job to be able to serve along with people who think about others, who do everything they can to support people. And the artisans really value this work. Every moment when they are creating a product, they think about all the way we came from, what we are aiming, and they make sure that whoever will buy this product will be really happy about it. And also they think about how it can impact their families.
That's beautiful. And that's such an important piece that I love that Azizi really focuses on that. And that's something that I also am really passionate about, and then love to support companies in particular that have a big focus on being run. Because, there's a lot of talk in sort of the fair trade and ethical space, and sort of this idea of sometimes, you'll have somebody from, America or the Western world kind of come in, and then they just like tell people what to do, and how that can be really harmful. And so, this is really truly a partnership and something that's changing lives. And I think that that's a really important conversation to have. Now, Christi and Tom, I would love for you to kind of just share your, I don't know who wants to go first, if Christi or Tom wants to go first, but to kind of share, your involvement and how you specifically got connected to this, and what has, how has your role maybe changed over the last, gosh, I'm terrible at math, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, I'll happily cover that. First of all, Jeannine's being modest because she's she's now the CEO of the company, so she's the boss.
Yeah, she is. She is a boss,
and
she's a boss.
And when we started, I had never met anyone who learns as fast as Jeannine or picks up anything as fast as Jeannine. And right from the very start, we had identified Jeannine as the lady that was going to drive this forward. So it was very early on that we got to that position. And so, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that before we move on. It wasn't just she happened to be there. She had the skills and the ability, and she is the perfect person for the job. In fact, although I'm the only one that uses the title of co-founder, the truth is that Jeannine is the other co-founder, and so is Christi, but they don't actually use the titles. So yeah, I get emotional when I talk about Azizi Life, because it's a bit of my baby, really, since I started it years ago.
I love that you clarified that about Jeannine, by the way, because I could tell she was being modest. I was like, I know that you are the brains, that there's so much brain and brawn behind. So yeah, brilliant. She's brilliant.
The first jobs we worked on, when it was me and Jeannine going around to artisan groups, was on handbags and sandals. And my background is commercial insurance. So it gives you an idea of who was doing most of the work in those days. It definitely was not me. Jeannine was pretty much running the show from the start, but she just didn't know it. She just needed encouragement and time to get the confidence to take over. So yeah, so my background is that I came in my life prior to coming to Rwanda. I was a commercial insurance broker. I worked myself up in my career. I became a successful account handler, or relatively successful account executive, doing commercial insurance for medium to large businesses. And I was turning 30. I'd got my professional qualifications. I was earning good money. And then I had that kind of like, there has to be more to life than this moment. That I can't be just doing this. Can't be my purpose to just be in insurance. So I went in and told my boss that I didn't think that I would be. I said, basically, give me 6 months and I'll either go all out and we'll earn lots of money together, or I'm going to go away and I'm going to do something completely different with my life. And they were kind enough to kind of give me that space and to let me do that. And so I started researching and talking with my local church back in the UK and looking for different opportunities. My background has always been business and kind of insurance and finance and those kind of things. And I studied that at university. But all the jobs and things overseas, and I knew I wanted to go overseas because, a bit I missed. Sorry. The bit I missed was when I was 18. I did a Youth with a Mission, the Mercy Ships. I was on board the Anastasis. Yeah, so I did a discipleship training school when I was about 19 years old. And I was in Togo, West Africa, and then we sailed down to South Africa, and we spent a number of months in South Africa as well. And I fell in love with Africa. So when I had this crisis at age 30 and didn't know what to do with my life, I knew two things. I knew I understood business and making money, and I knew I loved Africa. And they were basically the two things that I knew. And so I started researching, praying with the local church and meeting with friends and discussing it. And every job that came up, or every opportunity that came up overseas, was really high-powered. It was unconnected to the community. It required a PhD or a master's in something or other. And I had no idea about development or anything. And it just didn't sound like very interesting at all. But then there was a position with Food for the Hungry Rwanda, working with a team of Rwandans doing small business training in the rural communities. So it was non-agricultural. We were to be going into villages and talking with groups and individuals on how to do basic accounting and those kind of things, and basic market community. It was working with the Rwandan people. It required a business background and not a development background, which was much preferable for me. And it was an unpaid position, so it was really easy to get the job. I was the only one who applied for it. And so I did some fundraising, and so that was I think I made the decision in the January, did some fundraising, and I was on a plane in August out to Rwanda, and landed in Rwanda, and my boss pretty much told me, yeah, that position you're coming for, it doesn't really exist, or we're not sure it's really going to work, but you can't really do what we had said you were going to do. And so then I had like, oh, okay. So what should I do now? And so my boss's thoughts were, the reason he didn't want me to do what I'd come to do was he didn't think there was enough disposable income in the rural community to be able to support any non-agricultural business. He thought we were training people to do business. The businesses were coming for the training, eating the lunches, getting the transport money, and then going bust. He didn't think any of them were surviving. So what he said instead was to go around and to meet with all the people that had tried to start a business and to see how they were going. So some were doing okay. I think by that point, we had done more than 1,000 people had been trained in some small business activity. And so I went around to the different groups and the different communities, and a few were doing okay. Like if they were a tailor and they had a contract with a school to make the uniforms, they were doing okay. But they had trained a lot of people to do arts and crafts, so baskets and those kind of things, because the belief was that people could do subsistence farming in the morning, make baskets in the afternoon, ship the baskets out of the country, everyone get paid loads of money, and then it helps with all of the export and those kind of things. But they had done a training for the basket weavers and the artisans, but there was still not enough kind of interest coming from the West. So there were some companies that had bought the year before, but they basically, the market wasn't strong enough or big enough yet. So all of the people that had started craft businesses particularly were barely being able to cover the costs. It was a hobby. Yeah. There were benefits for the women to meet together, to talk about issues and to discuss like raising a family, marital issues, those kind of things. So they were all seeing loads of benefit, but their husbands, they saw no benefit because there was no cash coming in. And so we came up with the idea that if every artisan stays working in their village, and we buy their crafts and then we sell those crafts somewhere else, then those artisans can spend money on the other businesses in the village. And so out of that kind of idea and belief that's how Azizi Life was kind of born, and that's how I kind of got into it.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bit long.
No, I think that's great. And you kind of briefly touched on another just really important point too, that there has to be this balance, because like there's the importance obviously of, at the end of the day, like these artisans need to be making money. Like this is their livelihood. But there's an important piece too about the community aspect and being able to connect with others, to be able to just to live in community and to encourage each other and challenge each other. And when someone's maybe going through a hard time or struggling, I mean, that's a universal need. Doesn't matter whether you live in Rwanda or the UK or China or Australia or North Carolina, like we're built for community. We're made for community, and we need each other. And I mean, that has been amplified so much during COVID-19, is this quote unquote social distancing and the being isolated and quarantined and all that kind of stuff. And it's really amplified the need for community, because when we're in isolation, like God didn't create us to live alone. God did not create us to live alone. And so we are made for each other. So that's also an important piece.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick break from my conversation with Christi, Tom, and Jeannine to thank the partners of this show who are able to help make it possible. Now, when it comes to gift giving, I am not perfect, but I do try to do my best to give gifts to my friends and family, things that they love, as well as items that empower the person who made them. Now, today's sponsor makes it so easy. The Lemonade Boutique stocks fun and meaningful gifts that also give back. Every purchase empowers the artisan who made it to take life's lemons and make lemonade. You can shop at thelemonadeboutique.com to see all the beautiful products that she has. And listeners of the Business with Purpose podcast can save 15% by using the code PURPOSE15 at checkout. I want to thank another one of our sponsors of the show, and that is Simple Switch. Actually, Rachel Coyce, the founder of Simple Switch, was on the show back in the spring, so you may remember her. And I wanted her to actually tell you a little bit about what makes Simple Switch so incredibly awesome.
Thanks, Molly. Thanks for letting me hop in on this episode really quick. We're an online marketplace for positive impact purchasing. So kind of a similar model to Amazon, where you can shop online for things that you actually need. So like toilet paper, all the way up to nice gifts like jewelry or electronics. But every single product has some sort of environmental or social impact. So I'm really passionate about the change that we can make just with our everyday shopping, as I know you are from all your amazing episodes on this show. And we'd love to offer a discount to your listeners, because I know you guys are the exact right people for our marketplace. So if you go on simpleswitch.org and use the coupon code PURCHASE-WITH-PURPOSE, you'll get 20% off your first order. And that can be a cart that includes all your day-to-day needs, gifts, things you need for next year. We can't wait to see you there.
Thank you so much, Rachel. All right, now back to my conversation with Christi, Tom, and Jeannine.
Christi, can you kind of just share with us, like, kind of how you got connected and how you got involved? How has your role changed?
Yes, I am originally from Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, and had been working in recreation in a nursing home, loving the people, loving the creativity. And I came to this crossroads where I realized anew the need and pain in the world through a Bible study that my friend was leading. And I knew that God cared about the poor and the oppressed and the fatherless and the widow. And I felt moved to really examine myself and think about what is a faithful response in light of these realities. I went through a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of searching within, a lot of checking in with my community of people on this subject, and a lot of searching about what in the world I could do that would be useful to God and to other people with my sociology degree and my skills in leading sing-alongs and crafts and prayer exercises. That long search led me to the work of holistic development, not only focusing on people's spiritual well-being, not only focusing on people's physical well-being, but really serving people and understanding people in an integrated way. And that in turn led me to Food for the Hungry. So I came out on the same kind of volunteer program that Tom did, and I did not know what I was going to do. I spent a long time just in cultural adaptation. And if I say language learning, will that come out as a dig for Tom? But he jumped straight into action. I just was exploring and just trying to figure it out. And I finally went for something at Tom's prompting, and then it all fell through. And I really found myself in this slump, maybe about 9 months in, where I did not have a practical way to really be engaged in serving people with our team or with anybody. And so I remember a moment when I was at church. I was uncomfortable socially and culturally and physically, because I was in the middle of this hot building, squeezed between these ladies in their beautiful fabric head wraps. And the pastor pointed to me and said something that I didn't understand, which was so kind and gracious of him, but I just reached a point of cultural stress. And I found myself thinking on that bench in the church, I don't have anything practical to do. I don't know what I should be doing. I might as well just help Tom with his Azizi Life. Because Tom and I had been sitting across the table from each other at the Food for the Hungry office. And we had realized that we were very different in many ways, but we shared love for God and love for people and those common values. And so the next morning, I trudged into the office, and Tom, knowing that I was in a slump, said, "How you doing?" And I kind of mumbled something, and he said something that he had never mentioned ever before in these 9 months we've been working together. "Well, you could always help me with Azizi Life." And it was just one of those like light bulb moments that really felt like a God thing. And although when I was signing up to come to Rwanda, you could not have paid me to take a business position, it turned out that that was exactly what God had in mind. And that the things that I loved in recreation that had been seemingly unrelated, but the people and the creativity, that I could engage those things in the work that had just been started through Tom with Azizi Life.
I love that you're like, I really hope that I'm not involved in the business in any way, shape, or form. And then God's like, that is cute. That's so cute when you think that you have all the plans and the ideas. So obviously you guys have been, doing this now for quite some time. And it's just been amazing to see how it's grown. What does Azizi Life look like today? How many artisans are you working with? What's the current status of Azizi Life?
As we have all explained, we started with just 3 of us here, and now we have a team of 23 permanent staff.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember when we started, we were only sharing one table, like a dining table and a cupboard. And now we have a big office.
With 3 locations.
And 3 locations. So 3 locations in Rwanda with all 22 permanent staff. We have some temporary staff, about 12 people in total. And we are working with over 500 artisans located in Rwanda.
Wow.
So it's really good. We can see that we are growing every day.
Wow. If that is not, that's one of those things when you hear stuff like that and you see how, you started small and you had the faith the size of a mustard seed. And now look at the way that God has grown it and the impact that you've had. I mean, 500 artisans around Rwanda is amazing. And then you have all this staff, and those are lives. Those are people with families, and those are families that are being impacted. Those are communities that are being impacted. And the ripple effects of that are just, we can't even really even begin to quantify it. And it's something that I feel like sometimes I feel like I am just constantly repeating myself here on the show. But I think it's a point that cannot be emphasized enough, is that truly there's so many things, but one of the root issues of global poverty is lack of access to a job. And when somebody has a job and they have a dignified job, a fair wage, a living wage job, they have community and support. That's a person that then goes back and that impacts their family. And then that family influences a neighborhood or a community. And then that community influences a region. And I mean, it is a drop in the ocean that just begins to spread. And so to hear that and to see that, I just want to encourage you that you guys are just doing incredible work. And Jeannine, you're an incredible leader and just a powerhouse. I can just tell, like I said, you are being modest, but I know that that together you guys have just really done such incredible work. And the products also just speak for itself. So not only do you have all this amazing stuff that you have on going behind the scenes, but the products that you're putting out are beautiful, and they are things that anyone would want in their home. And that's an important piece as well, is so often there's sort of this like, what's the word? This kind of stereotype or like myth in the fair trade ethical world where like products that are made, overseas are like kitschy, or they're just kind of like, oh, that looks nice, but it's not like something like beautiful that you want to display in your home. Do you know what I mean? Like, and, but no, like, I mean, the baskets, the wall hangings, the home decor, the beautiful, I mean, the hand carved nativity sets. I mean, all these different things, like they're stunning. And they're things that just look really high end. They're beautifully made. You can tell the craftsmanship and the skill that goes into each piece. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight that because I think that that's also another kind of important piece to this larger puzzle. So last question here before we go to our get to know you round is I'd love for one of you to just kind of share what is sort of the vision. I mean, again, Tom said at the beginning that you guys are trying to work yourselves out of a job. But what is sort of the long-term vision for Azizi Life, kind of here in the immediate future, next couple years?
Again, I just want to correct something Jeannine said or improve on it. We've doubled in size since she became CEO.
Amazing.
We weren't that big. When I was CEO, we were about half as big, roughly. So yeah, our vision, we've got different parts of Azizi Life. So there's Azizi Life Rwanda, there's Azizi Life US, and there's also our non-profit and impact work in Rwanda. So each of them have got kind of slightly different visions for the future. In the US, with the non-profit there, so we have a 501c3 in the US that handles all the distribution and does fundraising within the US. We've got this big push for increasing our sales to a point where we're buying at least 10 times what we were buying 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, we set ourselves a target to increase what we're selling by 10 times. So we're really pushing the marketing and the selling side of things. We're really keen that people buy the products because they're beautiful, with the added bonus that they make an impact, as opposed to a pity buy or something like that. So we're working on the product development. We're trying to work with designers in the US to really get great products onto the shelves around North America. In Rwanda, we have three main projects now. We work with the crafts side of things. We also do educational tours where people that visit Rwanda can get the opportunity to learn from the artisans and the communities where the artisans live. So we run different experiences there. So I think we started with about 10 different households, and now we're up to about 50 different households where people can book a day to spend and learn about construction, or they can learn about basket weaving, or they can learn about cooking, or they can do drumming and dancing, or they can learn about traditional Imigongo art. And so that's all run by the artisans and their communities. They're the instructors, and we send along a translator. And so we're looking to increase that. We've recently started working with universities for research purposes and those kind of things, just getting access into the communities and working alongside the communities to see how things can be improved. So we're looking to grow that beyond where it is at the moment. I'm not entirely sure how far we want to grow, but maybe double in size. Double in size, Jeannine says we want to at least double in size. Jeannine says what we're doing. And then we also started working with beekeepers in Rwanda through a sister organization, which is part of Azizi Life now. It's called Beautiful Creations. And they work with beekeepers to make candles, beeswax, wraps. They do lip balms, soaps, and polishes, basically all items for sale within Rwanda at the moment. So we haven't started exporting, but we hope to grow that to a point where we can export items. And then that can go off and stand on its own as its own separate business. So Azizi Life Crafts can stand on its own. Experiences maybe one day will go off and be in its own business as well. But what we're looking to do is to kind of keep adding on new social enterprises, new business ideas within Rwanda to kind of just get employment into the rural communities. So every business we look to start, we look at whether it's going to be beneficial to the community and to the rural community, and that will bring something of God's kingdom there. And so if it's going to do that, and if it's fair trade, and it's going to provide employment, then that's something that we'll go after. So far we've done the tourism side, we've got the beekeeping side, we have the craft side, and then alongside all of these things, we set up a Rwandan non-profit. And so any money that is made by these different social enterprises, that gets funneled into a non-profit that runs impact projects that will benefit the communities, or basically help communities overcome barriers so that they can thrive. So we're running adult literacy programs where people can learn to read and write. We have a program where people can get access to fuel-efficient stoves and water filters on a kind of a loan system. So they still pay for them, but the problem is that although these devices will save them money in the long run, they can't afford the upfront cost. So we pay the upfront cost, and then they pay a little bit back each month, but they get access to that money-saving device, such as the cooker, the stove, or solar lamps. We also do Bible distribution and Bible study as a Christian organization, that we believe that you really need wholeness as an individual. And the way we break that down is physical wholeness, so being able to afford what you need, social wholeness, so interacting with your communities in a positive way, and then also spiritual wholeness, so your relationship with God and Jesus Christ. And so I guess all of these things is we're just going to keep on looking to grow and to hand over. That's what I like doing. I like starting things. I'm awful at running things. I'm not somebody who wants to run anything. So I just look for new things that we can start. And I think as a team, we look to grow each one so it can just impact more and more lives. And we could just see more and more communities changed over the time.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so now is the point of the show where I just ask each one of you kind of a fun get to know you question. And all right, so actually, Christi, I'm going to start with you. So Christi, do you have any guilty pleasures?
Guilty pleasures. I tend to be a pretty measured person, but there's something that I do that I haven't told everyone about, that every day when I come home, instead of going straight inside, I go up into our garden and I press my nose into the freshest rose in the garden.
Aww.
And I just spend a few moments just inhaling the beauty of that flower and feeling its softness and just taking in all the sensations of the garden before I go inside. So passersby probably think I am a crazy person, but I just really love reveling in the small, beautiful things around me.
I love that. That's like the most beautiful, peaceful answer. I love that. Okay, Jeannine. You are a hardworking CEO. You just work all the time, I know. But what is something you like to do just for you? Something you like to do for fun?
Yeah, I like to spend time with my daughters, just listen to them, hearing about how their day went, and knowing what they are predicting for their future. And yeah, get to spend enough time with them. So that's what I really love to do when I'm off to work.
I love that. I love that. Okay, Tom, if you had to eat the same meal for dinner every night for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, there's so many dinners I would like it to be. I think it's got to be the full English breakfast, which is sausage, bacon, eggs, beans, fried potatoes, and toast with coffee.
I like it. I love breakfast for dinner, so I'm all about that. Okay. And then my last question, I'm actually going to ask this question of Jeannine. And Jeannine, what does it mean to you to run a business with purpose?
It means a lot to me, especially when you are talking about helping someone to get from O level to a level that she can support herself, her family, and her community. So whenever I wake up and I think about the next stage or next thing I have to do, I always think about all those people we work with, all their projects for the future, and make sure that I hit the target so that I can enable them to achieve all their goals and make sure that their dreams come true. So I really love to be involved and put all my energy, all my skills and knowledge in something that I know, and I'm sure that it will bear fruit, not only for me, but for a number of people. I really love it.
I love that answer, Jeannine. And I just want to thank all three of you, Jeannine, Christi, Tom. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for connecting and sharing the story of Azizi Life. And I know, no, that you guys are going to continue to see the growth that you're praying for and working towards. And I just see God's hand all over this organization and your businesses. And just thank you today for connecting with me and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, friend, I would love to know what you loved about this episode or something that you learned. If you do, let me know on social media. You can find me at Still Being Molly or at Business with Purpose Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. And don't forget to use that hashtag Business with Purpose Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you're a first-time listener, welcome, new friend. Be sure to visit the archives for past shows featuring so many incredible entrepreneurs who are literally changing the world with their businesses. And if you're a regular listener of the show, thank you for tuning in and week out, and thank you for your support. Be sure to head on over to iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Radio Public, Amazon Podcasts, basically wherever you can listen to a podcast, and click that subscribe or follow button. Clicking that button helps to make sure that you never miss a new episode of the show. And while you're there, would you take a moment to leave a review? Leaving a review actually helps me to know what you're liking and how this show is personally impacting you. This show is produced by the incredible team at Third Wheel Media. Thank you so much for listening. Now go do something good with purpose on purpose.